Hello traders, welcome to the Market Internals review for May 31st, 2023. Today definitely provided some more opportunities than what we've had on this short week thus far from Tuesday. We started with a gap down and right away trend gave us the imbalance signal, meaning that the likelihood of a trending move is much higher. We see that we have a gap down with a bar closing up, and it consolidates here for just a short moment, and then we end up rejecting the session TWAP, breaking the lower standard deviation first band here, and the add and Vold band started red on the day, and I've been seeing this pattern where the Vold trend 20 SMA is opposing the sentiment, and right as that breakdown occurs, that's when we flip. So pretty interesting to see that, and certainly something I pay attention to when I'm trying to determine a good entry for the opening session. Not always present, but the risk to reward is usually quite nice with the opening volatility. Had a handful of opportunities to get in short here and follow this. Notice the tick trending closures well under zero the entire morning session here. By midday, we did finally get some interesting divergence here with add and Vold. There was a 20 SMA flip on the add, so this in turn signals that the New York Stock Exchange composite set of stocks is starting to potentially reverse from a bearish stance. So red band, but green upward signal here. And you can notice that SPY was somewhat in agreement with that. We based here at lows and slowly started to melt up. Now, an interesting thing occurred right around the 12:30 time that I point out, where we started to have more tick closures over zero on average. And then we get our first really hard closure signal here on tick on the bullish upside that tests the session TWAP. We do come back down quite violently to the standard deviation low, and then from there we just continue to go up. We did close higher from low a day at the end, albeit quite aggressively. Had some downward move there towards the end. And I know we had some Fed speakers today, so I haven't aligned that with the chart, but my guess is that there was some volatility induced by those speeches and whatever was being said. But yeah, so this here is pretty much positive alignment to the internals. So trend showing imbalance. We had a decent down move, and then we had somewhat of a decent move up, albeit with some serious chop. So there was a couple of good entries here off of the TWAP. It certainly got risky as you tried to break out of the standard deviation high. Breakouts are more rare. Most of the time they do not work. That is also roughly around the point where we rejected the opening TWAP value here. So something interesting to see here is the tick levels. So as I mentioned yesterday, I like to take a look at where a lot of the tick action was for SPY. So versus yesterday where the tick price thicker levels were at the lows, today they're at the highs, maybe the mids. We did have a thicker one here at the bottom, signifying that there was some good tick traffic down here. But if we go take a look at Qs, we can see some similar traffic as SPY, but the price action had a much more aggressive upwards move, testing yesterday's session TWAP closing price at around 350. Then we have the same rejection that SPY saw. Tick levels are majority mid to bottom on the Qs, and I think that makes sense given some other things I'll review here towards the end, changing it up a little bit here. So the Russell mostly like SPY, strong selling into the afternoon and then reversing into the afternoon ending session. If we check Dow, it's a little bit less smooth price action, but mostly the same as well. So one divergence that I want to make from other videos is taking a look at Apple. So Apple has their WWDC upcoming on the 10th, I believe. And they've had quite a different move today compared to the rest of the market. And I attribute this to some of the divergence I've been seeing in this week's movement between Qs and SPY. So while SPY was selling off, Apple was actually just rocketing out of their previous day range. Then we finally did see a sell, but I attribute a lot of the SPY upwards movement towards the afternoon to Apple. Now there was this aggressive sell-off. I'm not sure what this was, if this is news or just a strong rejection, somebody taking profits with large liquidity. Really unsure here. Tick levels show a lot of upwards tick action, which makes sense given all the highs and then the testing of the highs throughout the day. So it'll be very interesting to continue to watch them. Knowing that most of the indexes have a large holding of Apple, I definitely think that watching their stock intraday this week may prove to be quite helpful. Another thing I want to look at is chips. So semiconductors, if you've been trading the market the past month or so, semiconductors with NVIDIA's huge earnings, it's just been a rocket ship. So with their liquidity and Apple's being somewhat of a divergence, I think this is probably somewhat of the reason we're seeing some interesting Q versus SPY movement. So if we hop over to the actual internal charts, we can see with tick today, given that I've mentioned in past videos, I like to box up a lot of the tick traffic. I think that today's tick was actually a little messy if you weren't using MIT. We had a couple of tests, breakouts, and we had a couple of really strong breaks up. This is definitely more towards that 12:30 time. But we definitely had a sentiment shift. If you're looking here at tick, we spent most of the time below zero. Then we switched to over zero. We had a lot of over zero traffic here. And then right around the end of the day, I think it's pretty much a mixed bag. So moving over to the ad chart. So ad chart today actually gave a pretty good signal for a potential reversal earlier in the morning session. So we crossed that 20 SMA at 11 o'clock, roughly speaking, and continued that trend almost all the way to the end of the day. We had a rather aggressive sell-off, reclaimed, but pretty much all the way to the end of the day. So we went from a low of negative 1,200 stocks, we'll say, to a negative only of 350. So a lot of work was done trying to bring this price back. Now notice here, we had a low a day yesterday on the ad, and here today is roughly right about where we stopped. So as I've mentioned, I believe before, is you can definitely chart levels on the internals and use that to provide guidance along with the moving averages. Let's switch over to the Vold. As I have mentioned, I think on the 25th video, the 25th market internal review video, when SPY is moving up but the Vold is moving down, it can provide room for more upside. That's not a guarantee, but it's something definitely to look out for. And that's essentially what we had today. So Vold took a lot longer than the ad to have a reversal. And the reversal that it had, honestly, was quite ugly. So we had these huge bars back and forth, making some of the potential setups on the indices nearly untradeable or incredibly risky. And then here you see we had this massive sell-off right at the end. So again, the Vold measures the volume in the advancing versus declining stock. So when the vol is downtrending, it means the volume is sinking more into those declining stocks. So reviewing the trend today, as I told you, the MIT indicator makes this a little bit easier, but trend as a whole was providing a clear picture as to the kind of day we were most likely to have. Incredibly strong trend. We haven't seen something this high on trend for quite some time. We cleared the 1.5 price that usually determines an oversold, extreme bearish condition in the market, and today we had that and then some, reaching a high of 2.7. That 12:30 time, our intraday high price on trend or high indication, it's not really a price, but that high value of about 2. So we did break that about 209. And then you can see it steadily declined for the rest of the day, taking us back into more of a normal bearish scenario. So all of that aligns back to buy here at that 12:30 time, going all the way up into that standard deviation breakout area, retest the TWAP, and back up high, almost hitting that second deviation. Very interesting. We did see an extreme closure here on the tick, but notice that it was a higher low from the close up here. I'm going to go into the next day expecting a little bit more stronger buying, solely off of the vol and the fact that we did have a reversal. I'm not sure the market is ready to sell off any lower. Obviously anything can happen tomorrow based on any news or data release, so I play every day with whatever the internals will display. We can turn on here the metrics table. Puts versus calls did end green at 0.91, so that's a little bit more positive side for call buyers. And the volatility did end in the red area, but I'm pretty sure VIX ended on a low price, but let's take a look. Okay, so it ended basically where it started, around that $18 range. So as always, I appreciate you watching these videos. Please do leave a comment if there's anything that you want to see or any questions you have. Let me know if you're using these indicators, or at the very least you're using the market internals themselves. That would really make me happy to know that perhaps I've taught somebody how to use this information and perhaps they're benefiting from it. Otherwise, good luck trading tomorrow, and I'll see you next time.